What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose. I am Collin, joined today with Tyler. Before we kick off this show, you can find Hawk Talk on Melrose on your favorite podcast app, including Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Castbox, and then also on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, leave a review, like us, whatever you got to do, get our name out. We love it. We appreciate it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Hawk Talk Melrose. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk Iowa women's basketball. Why? Because we're going to the Final Four, second time in 2 years, back to back. It was a great night last night. Iowa beating LSU, and it was as good as you could hope for because I wanted this matchup, and we got it done. So what's going on, Tyler? How's your Tuesday going for you?
It's good. It's weird. Back when we're in football season, we're always recording on Wednesday night, and it feels like a Wednesday because we're doing the pod after work, but it's only
Yeah.
it's only Tuesday, so that's a little depressing. But excited, obviously, like you mentioned, to talk about the women's game last night. Iowa getting it done against LSU in a revenge game, really for the ages, like specifically talking Caitlyn Clark. So I'm super pumped to talk about it.
Can we first discuss this because I think it needs to be mentioned that going into the tournament, we had a very tough side of the bracket. Our region was very tough. And, we talked about it, how they put LSU in our region for a specific reason. Now, I do think that this matchup last night should have been a Final Four matchup. I think you can make a really good argument for that. But when we saw LSU there, I think we all were like, I want to play them. I want to play them again. Although, I don't think we were all 100% confident that we'd win. Like, even for me, I kind of felt like even going in last night, I was I kind of thinking LSU probably will beat us, but I still wanted the matchup regardless of what would happen because of what all took place last year. But what I do want to say though is that game last year just seemed like it was like drama after drama. You had the whole Angel Reese thing, you had Kim Mulkey. This game, I was fully expecting that again last night, and credit to both teams for just playing basketball. There was no drama last night. It was as good as you can get, stars after stars after stars. You didn't have all the Kim Mulkey on the sideline freaking out. The officials were actually not bad. The only quote unquote maybe bad call, which I don't even think it was a bad call, was maybe Angel Reese's fifth foul, right? That was kind of a toss up. But other than that, I thought the officials did a great job. And that's one thing with women's basketball that's just been god awful is officiating. So last night was probably as good as you can write about, especially with the win. So that's my first initial reaction to last night. And then we'll get into the game.
100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we had going into the game like a little PTSD, and a little, we were fearing that it would be the LSU antics, the Angel Reese, the you can't see me all over again. Before the game, there was a little of that going on where she had her crown or whatever, and she placed it
Yep.
on their bench and for everyone to see. And so I thought, oh, here we go. And like you said, yeah, Kim Mulkey last year being out, 8 feet basically onto the court as an extra LSU player consistently throughout the game. You thought maybe you'd see some of that again. It was, I know last year, and they talked about it too, Lisa Bluter just didn't feel like she could even communicate with the refs throughout the game. And just like you said, it was one thing after another last year. And I really do believe that is the reason why we lost and did not play very good, specifically in that game as a team.
Yep.
And like you said, credit to honestly both teams, kept it all on the court, didn't let, the antics and everything else play a factor. And like you said, the reffing has been questionable, not only in this tournament, but just in women's basketball in general. And last night, you look at the free throw attempts is pretty even on both sides. I thought they let them play, which was good to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, they didn't really affect the game. They just kind of stood back and called it, when they needed to call it. And like I said, that was it was a great game of basketball. Let the stars be stars. Let the players determine the outcome of the game, and they did.
So before we get into the game, so going kind of back to what I was saying before about this region, did you see this tweet today by Kyle Huseman? Path to the Final Four. So Iowa Hawkeyes, and this is just taking the net ranking. So they played Holy Cross, which was 186 in the net. West Virginia's 21st, Colorado's 16th, and LSU's 8th. Meanwhile, Connecticut, who we're going to be playing next here on Friday night, which we'll get into, Jackson State 100, Syracuse 44, Duke 20, and USC 10. So it goes to show that Iowa's path has been pretty damn hard outside of that first game. And West Virginia, if you really think about it, has given us the best shot of beating us, right? Like that game was intense down to the wire. Colorado game, which I thought was going to be a really tough game for Iowa. We just came in and, it looked the best we've looked in a long time. And then the LSU game, another game where once again, I wanted the matchup, but I was very fearful because of like LSU's size down low and their physicality. I was like, I just don't know if we're going to be able to beat them. But this team has, I'll admit, like, kind of counted this team out numerous times, even on this podcast. I said about a month ago, I was like, this team's going to lose right away in the tournament because there's flaws, but they have turned the corner. They are playing as good as you can get. If Caitlyn Clark is putting up 40, that's awesome, but it's the rest of the people, that the rest of the girls that are playing really well. Sydney, right? Hannah Stolke, I know last night didn't play very well. Addison O'Grady, which we'll get into here soon, of her performance last night. Like, you got the role players around Caitlyn Clark, and it's just really fun to watch. It's good to see. And yeah, this team is playing the best basketball that it could be playing right now. And thank God it's happening literally in the tournament when it matters most.
100%. It's great to see Caitlyn Clark drop 40, and that will win you some games. But I think for me and you, looking back a few weeks ago, a month ago, we're just like, the supporting cast has not stepped up in a way that we can see this team actually making a run, at least deep into the tournament.
Yeah.
And credit to the role players, man, because they have stepped up in a major way.
This was also at the time when, like, you remember, like, Gabby Marshall, like, couldn't make a three. We 100%. Were questioning why she was even playing, because there was a point in the season at Indiana in particular where I was like, why is she even on the court?
Yep.
Because she's providing nothing for us. And now although she only had 3 points last night, but she was at least getting involved on the offensive side, and she's at least starting to make threes. Yes. Right, in most of these games, so it's helping us. But I just remember, like, that was kind of like that during that time period where I was like, okay, none of these girls around Caitlyn are stepping up, and now they are. And think about it, we're doing this without Molly Davis. I know Molly Davis isn't great, but like, she was a starter and she provided depth, and like, it's just it's amazing to see like players like Sydney Fulter who is stepping up in her presence. And you can make the case that Sydney probably should have started all year. But regardless, just Molly Davis having that depth is it sucked when she got hurt, because I was like, man, like, what are we going to do? But we were just fine.
Well, and there was like some like ESPN chick who was like, she was like in the studio or whatever on ESPN after the game and like during halftime. And she after the game, she had like pulled a stat and was like, it was like Sydney Falter, I think, and Kate Martin against top 25 opponents this season. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but they were pretty low. Like 5 points for Sydney or something, and Kate was like 12. And since the tournament, they've went up to like 15 and 20 or something like that. Like that's just what we were talking about. I mean, they were not Caitlyn wasn't getting that type of help throughout the season, and that's why there was doubts, and that's why a lot of people said, like, they're really, really good, but they have flaws where they can easily lose earlier than expected. And so 100%, like, credit to everyone that has stepped up. But I think a lot of that, again, is the Caitlyn Clark effect. Like, she draws so much attention, and she's going to get you wide open shots. She's going to
Yep.
get you the easiest looking shots you're ever going to see. Hannah Stolke, all she does is score layups in transition. And I mean, how much easier can it get if you're a person like Hannah Stolke? So it's just that's part of the Caitlyn Clark effect, I think.
Well,
Sure.
it's like, how do you defend Caitlyn Clark? I remember back in high school when, I'm blanking, that the head coach now for the 76ers, he's from Carroll, our hometown.
Oh, Nick
Um,
Nurse. Yeah.
Nick Nurse. Like, I remember asking him when he came to like our high school and we were just talking to him. I remember asking him, like, how do you, and this was during like LeBron's like peak years. I was like, how do you defend LeBron? And I remember him saying, like, you just hope that he has an off night, because if you try one thing, they're so good that they're going to be able to do another thing. And so for like Caitlyn Clark, if you try double teaming her, well, she's so good at finding the open person, you can't really do that. And
Yeah.
if you just play one-on-one, match up her like last night, like Kim Mulkey just having Haley Van Lith on her, like good luck with that too. So
Yep.
you just have to hope that she has an off night. And like, for example, the reason why we almost lost to West Virginia is because she kind of had an off night that night, right? Like she just didn't make some of her shots. I'm sure I'd have to go back and look what she finished stat line. Probably still really good, but like, those off nights for her are still
Yeah.
like stat wise line, like it still looks good. But, so yeah, like it is kind of amazing. Like the players
Yeah.
around her, like, yeah, if you tried one thing on Caitlyn, well, she's going to do the other. And that's just greatness right there. And that's why it's so fun to watch her. And it's just, anyone that like doesn't watch, right? Like anyone that I feel bad for you, because you're missing out on generational greatness.
100%. And yeah, you can argue she is as good a passer as she is a scorer. I mean,
Yep.
the type of passes that she makes, the the vision, the awareness of where her teammates are going to be. I mean, it's definitely, she doesn't remind me of LeBron physically, but in terms of like the style of play, like where they're just so good at everything, and kind of that all around game, like that's what it reminds me of. And then also the range is like Steph Curry for sure.
I'm kind of surprised that last night Kim Mulkey didn't have Flage on her for most of the
Yeah,
night.
that's what they were saying.
It really felt like when Van Lith like went to the sideline, which it felt like she did a lot. It was almost like it kind of sucked. Like it was like nice when she was coming back in, because it's like Caitlyn's like having her way against her. And so I was kind of surprised by that. I could see maybe the argument because the energy of having to defend Caitlyn Clark, because she's constantly moving around, and Flage, you need her for the offense for sure. Right. So, but that was kind of interesting how they did that. And they didn't really do much double teams. They didn't really do much switching. They really just matched up against her, and she made them pay.
Yeah, I think, looking at it from LSU's perspective, I mean, man, you got to feel bad for Haley Van Lith. First of all,
she hasn't beat Caitlyn Clark. She lost last year too.
And it's funny, and people are like I actually saw this. It's funny because she had 41 points against Haley Van Lith in the Elite Eight.
Oh yeah, last year.
Yep. And she had 41 points against Haley Van Lith this year. So it's crazy. What's crazy to me from LSU's perspective is that they just let her. They didn't like switch it up until the game was basically over with.
Yeah.
In a sense, and that's what was kind of shocking, especially because Haley Van Lith was sick. Said she had to get like IVs before the game and stuff like that. She's been sick for the last couple of days. She's obviously she's like 5 inches shorter than Caitlyn Clark too.
Yeah, I think she's like 5'6", 5'7", and Caitlin's at least 6 foot.
6 feet. Yeah. So that's already a disadvantage. And then just the fact that you're gonna look at a person like Flage, who's more athletic. You saw her block last night. She can obviously get up. I don't know. It's just interesting where it's like, I know you need the points if you're LSU, but at the same time, you got to try to slow down Caitlyn Clark as best as you can. And I'm not saying that Caitlyn Clark wouldn't have still dropped 41. I'm just shocked that they really didn't mix it up a little bit more earlier on to try to get her out of her rhythm, because Caitlyn Clark, it was early and often, and it didn't stop throughout the entire game. She literally could not miss. It was incredible.
So she was the obvious MVP, and for 41 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds. But I also think the other MVP was Addison O'Grady. Now, she only finished with 5 points, which, I mean, even for her at 5 points, like I'll take that every game, backup
Oh
center.
yeah.
But what she did in the second half, Angel Reese 1 for 10 at one point in the second half. Now, you could make the case a little bit maybe had to do with the injury. I know living here in Huskerland, everybody I talked to today was using that as an excuse of why LSU lost was because of Angel Reese's injury, which I was like, well,
Oh
she
my
came
God.
back
Of course they
in,
did. Yeah.
she looked
No.
fine. Now, I will say, yeah, like maybe did it impact her slightly? Yes. But she looked fine in the second half. She was playing like clearly everything was fine.
Yeah.
So going back to Addison O'Grady, like the way she came in and kind of bodied her, kind of made her kind of get out of the block a little bit. It was
Yep.
incredible. And Hannah Stolke just had an off night. It was just not her night. It kind of maybe Angel Reese kind of got into her head a little bit. I don't know, but it was definitely encouraging to see someone coming off the bench for us. And like O'Grady, if you think about it, just hasn't really had that great of a year. Come in and just kind of body Angel Reese, who is one of the best players in college basketball. And once again, the way she started that game, Angel Reese, like in the first half, I was like, oh boy, she is going to go off for a lot of points. I think she finished what she finished with 17 points, and I'm sure I'd have to go back and look, but I would assume most of those points came in the first half, and she finished with 20 rebounds too. So um, she just didn't impact the second half, and that's the reason why we won. People don't remember that the score was tied at half, so it was anybody's ball game in the second half. I really think it came down with obviously yes, Caitlyn Clark going off in the second half, but it also came down to Addison O'Grady just stopping Angel Reese, who's one of their best players.
They had 31 points in the first quarter. We had
Yeah,
26, which is insane. We gave up 31 points. And
well,
Angel Reese looked like the most unguardable player I've ever seen. Caitlyn
I
Clark type of unguardable in the first quarter.
yeah, I texted you at the end of the first half like this is not looking good because we just had a
No.
great quarter offensively, and we're down by 5. Not looking good.
Yeah. And there was zero defense being played from Iowa. Um, and you're exactly right, Colin. Like Addison O'Grady for like what it is, like I've anyone that watches this team, like me and you have said, like she's not that great of a basketball player, but she at least provides some
Yep.
sort of like physicality in the paint. It's harder to move her as compared to like a slender, more, just smaller Hannah Stolke. And so I think, like you said, and I was reading too, it's like just letting Angel Reese catch it a few extra feet farther away from the basket on that initial catch already is a win,
Yeah, because
right?
she
Like,
can't really shoot the ball very well. Like
no,
just jump shot
no,
shooting. I mean,
100%. And she's not a good free throw shooter, as you saw from like, well, maybe she is, but she did not. She was like basically 50% the whole way um, throughout the night. So, yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Defensive MVP is Addison O'Grady. Like the way Angel Reese started, her stat line was insane. It was like 8 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. I mean, remember she had like those 2 steals and like breakaway
yep,
layups. Like
that was
it was
happening.
it was insane the way she started, and to go 1 for 10 and I don't know if that's what she finished, but at one point 1 for 10 in the second half, and with Hannah Stolke being in foul trouble and O'Grady having to play those 15 big minutes, that was the game. I mean,
Yeah,
like you said, yes, Caitlyn Clark is the story. But when you're talking defense, when I didn't think there was going to be much played, Addison O'Grady was the main factor. And then real quick on the injury thing, okay, here's what I'll say about that.
I
If
forgot
you're
to
in the
tell you that
game,
today. By the way,
if yeah, no, that just
but
like pisses me off now because it's like I will argue this if it happened, I'm not even gonna say CC, but if it happened to someone on Iowa and they come back into the game, well, then that's not an injury excuse. You're playing in the game. You're
yeah,
clearly okay enough to be in the game. Like you don't get the injury pass. If she goes out, Angel Reese breaks her ankle, Well, okay, then yeah, that's a legitimate like wow, that's like obviously a huge
Yeah, like
reason they
she didn't
lost.
play at all
Like
in the second half. Like
right, right.
that's a legitimate excuse. Yeah.
No, yeah, no. If you come back into the game, and she really didn't miss that much time, if I remember, maybe a
No,
few
she really
minutes.
didn't. Yeah, few
Like it
minutes.
wasn't, yeah. So no, that is
And
100% a lame excuse that I do not give a pass.
even in those few minutes, because I remember I was like, God, we have to take advantage of her being out, and we
Same.
didn't really
Yep.
take advantage of it. So it wasn't like
No,
we got up in a hurry when she got out.
I
No, it
think we were
was
still down maybe when she came back in.
yeah, it was
I
not.
think so. It wasn't, and I'm not again. Obviously, she hurt her ankle. Like I'm sure that played a part into the game. I'm
Yeah,
not denying
like she
that.
probably couldn't maybe jump as, but
Right.
once again, like you said, she was in the game. It shouldn't that
Yeah.
should not be an excuse at all. Also,
Nope.
give credit to Aston O'Grady. I mean, I don't think like once again the Huskers I talked to today, they don't take that into consideration that hey,
Right.
maybe someone actually stopped her a little bit. Maybe it wasn't just all her injury. Give credit a
Yep.
little bit where credit's due. I also thought though, I thought it was encouraging to see at least towards the end of the game, Hannah Stolke kind of got out of her shell a little bit and she actually finished the game
Yeah.
off pretty well. And I think it goes back to like, I just wonder if the first half, Angel Reese kind of getting in her
Well,
head a little
she
bit. You
and
know, she's
Angel had
young.
blocked her a couple times too early
Yeah.
on. So yeah.
So it was good to see her. Like she got that and one. I know she didn't make the free throw,
Yep.
but she got the and one. She
Yep.
finished with 8 points. So that was encouraging to see because at the end of the day, like if we get to the national championship game, we have to play South Carolina. Like she needs to come up big for us. South Carolina's a big team. They're physical.
Yep.
They're just as big and tall and physical and as athletic as LSU, if not better, right? I mean, there's
Yep.
clearly undefeated for a reason. So you need her to step up. I thought another thing too, and we can then kind of get into the next game. It's looking like the box score, man. Like some of like our starters playing besides Hannah Stolke, obviously, because she got, in the foul trouble, but like Caitlyn Clark, 40 minutes.
Yep.
Gabby Marshall, 40 minutes. Kate Martin, 39 minutes. Sydney, 37 minutes. Like they play like the entire game. We essentially only had one player come off the bench for us, and that was Addison O'Grady. Kylie came in for like 5 minutes, but okay, that's 5 minutes. And then AJ, who's kind of like the third string center, came in for like
Yeah.
3 minutes. So, I mean, we're doing this essentially with like six girls right now, but they're all playing really good.
Yeah. Yeah. They can, give credit to them and their conditioning. I mean, to play that many minutes for this amount of games is incredible. And, it's weird because it's like Caitlyn doesn't even like especially specifically even last night, she just didn't even look tired, man. As the game got
No,
on, she got better and better, and like it's incredible to see. But if you like when you mentioned the stat line, Colin, I was just looking at it. When you get out rebounded by 18 points, specifically offensive rebounds, 23-6, I'm saying we're losing that game 100%
oh,
because that means that LSU got so many second chance opportunities and they just
yep,
didn't convert. I mean, a lot of those you saw them rebound in one possession like 6, 7 times just to get 2 points, which played a
yeah,
part in it too. But yeah, when you get out rebounded that bad, um, not usually a good sign. I will say, like, I think it's a great sign going forward because you're gonna play like if you play UConn. I'm sure they've got some good centers. If it's South Carolina or North Carolina State, whomever, they're probably got some good players down low, and to see that we can still get out rebounded and win the game by like the way and the fashion that we did, like, is a really good sign. Now, obviously, had a lot to do with the fact that Caitlyn Clark couldn't miss, but that's what it's going to take, right? Like if we're
yeah.
if we're not going to be able to rebound, man, we better hope that we're on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to you look at the 3 point shooting, right? We shot 42%, 13 for 31. That's gonna get the
Yeah,
job done. Um, get to the foul line 22 times, 77%. I would like that number to be a little bit better, but LSU was 64%. It wasn't very good.
yeah,
So, I mean, it comes down to those numbers right there. But yeah, let's switch gears now to the Final Four game coming up here on Friday, since we won't be doing an episode before then. Let's talk a
yeah,
little bit about that game, and then we'll call it an episode. Yeah, playing UConn. Gonna be another big time game. Talk about just viewer wise, like this LSU Iowa game last night. They haven't came out yet with the ratings, but I'm sure damn good. And this Friday night's gonna be damn good as well because you got more stars going after each other, and it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to it. Um, Obviously, as we get closer, I'll start kind of researching maybe a little bit more about, because I don't really follow much women's basketball outside of Iowa. Obviously, I tune in a little bit here or there. We all know about Uconn and Paige and their coach and things like that. But just
Yeah.
kind of what's your initial thoughts on
I
that
mean, just
game
like
going
you
into it?
said, yeah, the specifics, not not well educated yet. But what I'll say is like when you talk about just like the matchup itself and like the stars, yeah, man, like when you go play Angel Reese in the Elite Eight, an LSU team, and revenge your loss, and now you're
Yep.
going up against Paige Beckers, who, is one of the top players in women's college basketball, along with the GOAT head coach and Gino Auriemma and UConn.
23 Final Fours I saw for him,
It's insane.
by the
Like
way.
their run. Like I remember when they won like 100 games in a row. It
Well,
was incredible.
do you remember, like, this is kind of off subject, but like, remember when like they won like every year? And that was like when women's basketball was just like so, to me, was just
Yes,
unwatchable because like they were just so good and everybody else just wasn't. And so they would blow out every team no matter what.
exactly. And why when there's no parity, and I'm not talking about just even women's basketball, when there's no parity in sports, nobody wants to watch. Nobody wants to watch the same team just keep winning and dominating because they're that much better than everybody else,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why I think with the players that like with Caitlyn Clark and Paige Beckers, like that game last night was obviously a really good game with Juju Watkins and Paige Beckers going at it. And Paige got the better of her last night. And obviously that's who we're gonna play in the Final Four. I mean, I saw that they both played each other when they were freshmen. Iowa played UConn her freshman year in the tournament. I think Iowa lost that game, I believe. Um, yeah,
Yes, I believe
yeah.
so.
Yep. And like at that time, Paige was like the number one player coming out of like in the country and, you know, had all the expectation. Obviously, Paige got like hurt with a knee injury, kind of derailed her a little bit. But this year, insane. And in the tournament, obviously, the way she's playing is incredible. So just the matchup itself, man, it only keeps getting bigger and better. And the eyeballs, like you said, it's all on women's college basketball right now. And yeah, like you said, like if you're not watching, I feel bad because it's like it is, and I never thought I would say that. Like just to be fair, like I'm not just saying it because I'm an Iowa fan, but it's like it is actually like incredible, like some of these games.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, Friday night's gonna be insane. Like,
Like
I'm so
and
looking
like
forward
we
to
were
it.
talking about, I'm so happy Iowa won, obviously, to go to the Final Four, but it's like now you have this whole week to look forward to another game
Yep.
and like another opportunity to go back to a national championship. Like it makes the weekend, Friday night so much better. Something to look forward to.
Exactly. And I just think if we continue playing like we have played these last two games, and I said this, I think maybe to you, but maybe it was to the Fab Four group chat. I said maybe it's a good thing that we are getting away from Carver, getting away from kind of the pressure of playing inside of 15, 16,000 Iowa fans. Get away. And because just like last year, same thing kind of happened. We
Yeah.
struggled so bad, especially in that round of 32 game last year. We actually almost lost to Georgia, just like we almost lost to West Virginia this year. We leave Carver, we feel good, we're going to Sweet 16, and we just turn it on. And that's kind of what's happening now. If we can get to Cleveland and we play like we did the last two games, I really think this team should make it and could make it to the Natty. And I think at that point, then it's like, I guess it is what it is. What happens at that point if we make it to the Natty? Yes, I
Right.
want to win so bad, especially after losing last year. But what a hell of a season, because once again, just going into this year, man, like not landing a transfer portal player, I just thought, and losing Monica, I just thought like this
Yeah.
is going to be a good year, but I just don't see this team going far in the postseason. And then yeah, like a month ago, I was kind of saying the same thing, or maybe a month and a half ago at this time. And here we are in the Final Four, and it's pretty incredible and it's awesome. And yeah, I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's kind of like what, Caitlin Clark was asked about that. And she was just like, everyone keeps talking about what we don't have. And we just kept focusing on what we do
What?
have. And
Yep.
so, that it's really incredible. Um, it's bittersweet because we're nearing the end of the Caitlyn Clark era and
Yeah,
at Iowa,
exactly.
and it's like I love this and I want it to continue and I want to end it with a natty so freaking bad because I think that cements her as like a top. I don't know, maybe not the GOAT because I didn't watch women's basketball back in the day, but easily one of the top players ever to
Yeah.
play the game. And
Also, I
just to
want
end
to
it that way would be incredible.
do it for Lisa Bluter too because I just
Oh
think
yeah,
she's a hell of a coach, and
arguably one
there's
of the better coaches in Iowa
yep.
program history, no
And
matter the sport.
with Lisa, I just feel like there's no drama with her, right?
Oh yeah,
And I just think the entire coaching staff, I really love this
yeah,
coaching staff that Iowa has, and I just think that like they deserve a natty,
yes.
and the fans and the support and everything, it would be incredible. It's going to be extremely difficult because South Carolina is really good,
Oh
and they're going to remember what happened last year. Like it's going to be tough. Probably tougher than maybe even like the LSU team from last year in the Natty. So we would have to play probably as
right,
good as we could play. And that's if we even get there. We got to get past UConn first. UConn's
right.
a great team led by what, like you said, the GOAT head coach. Like they're gonna be ready. They're gonna be ready to
Yeah.
go. And did you see, by the way, that I saw it's kind of circling today that Caitlyn Clark, like dream team was to play at UConn, and like they never reached out to her.
I
Did
did
you see
not
that?
see that.
Yeah, I saw it
No.
a few times. So it's like, hey, maybe maybe she'll come out, swinging, kind of prove,
Well,
you know.
I saw UConn's head coach. He was like talking about like he's like I just really hope Caitlin Clark had like a had real taken it personal against LSU and she doesn't really feel anything personal against us because I don't want to see her dropping 50
Yeah,
on us. She he's like calling
I
her the best ever and everything. Kind of try to have her take it easy on him leading up to the game. So, but yeah, dude, hey. I will say this, like people are kind of like comparing her to like, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, whatever, in terms of like just like the will to win, the killer instinct, the clutchness, all that. And it's like, hey, I do feel like though sometimes she does find ways to like find motivation, kind of like what Michael did.
yep.
Um, you hear about all those stories about how he finds these random things to get pissed off about to drop 50 on somebody on a random Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so, you do wonder if like she does find like maybe she takes that into account. UConn never recruited her and she gets an opportunity in the Final Four to beat them. So that would be cool.
Well, like they kept saying last night, like, both players, her and Angel Reese, both said there's no blood. And it's like, no, they say
Nah.
that, but deep down, like,
Oh,
Caitlin Clark last night, like that was a revenge game. That was a, what happened last year. I don't care what anyone says. And yeah, she comes out
yeah.
and 40 points, FU, and we're gone to the Final Four.
Real quick, I not to get super like ended on a down note, but like what do you think about like all the LSU players after the game kind of talking not not specifically about like the harassment stuff because obviously if that's true, like that's horrible, obviously, like there's no room for that. But I just think here's what I'll say. I think if LSU wins that game, they're talking shit.
Yeah, I'd be curious, like in an alternate universe, if like they would have won that game, like what it would have been like, right?
I mean, you saw what
And
they did last year. Now, granted, that was to win the national championship. So,
yeah, I
but
know
I
it is.
just
It's one of those things where you don't know. Like I almost kind of feel like with like Kim Mulkey, like I feel like she's kind of like a sore loser in a way too.
that's what I
Um,
mean. Like, it's not so much like that, like the other stuff. It's more just like after the game, like she's like, Caitlin Clark's just incredible, and it's like leading up to the game that you didn't hear that type of stuff, and so you just wonder, is it
Well, I thought
the
it was
result of the
interesting.
game?
I thought it was interesting. Kim Mulkey, like the end was like someone asked her, and she just like she needs to like get out of the or go off to the
Oh
WNBA.
yeah,
I thought that was hilarious. That wasn't really anything like she was just
no,
being
no,
kind of
no.
hilarious
Oh
there. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I know it's a I kind of wonder that too, like what LSU would be like because yeah, I feel like I remember last year like Angel Reese, I think in the Elite Eight game. I remember when they won, like state, like she had the crown. She put like the
Well,
crown
that's
on, and
what when it
she was doing
started. That's
she was doing
and
the
we,
ring
everyone
thing.
everyone was saying like it's not you didn't even win anything yet.
Yes, in the Elite Eight, I remember her doing the ring thing, and
That's what I'm
everyone like,
saying.
you still have two games, and of course they end up winning. But like,
Well,
so yeah, so it makes you wonder, like, what?
and like the hand, like they like you said, they hugged it out at the end of the game and everything. And like I know Dave Portnoy, I'm a big Barstool guy, and he was at the game and he's loves Caitlin Clark, and he just tweeted, he's like, Man, that's the difference between Caitlyn Clark and me because I can't do that. I would
Yeah.
have been, So
Yeah.
it just it
I
is weird. It
give,
is a
I
weird
give
dynamic.
Caitlin props for
Yeah,
handling that situation at the end of the game. Cause I
I
know
think
for me,
she,
like,
I think she sees bigger and better things ahead of her, and
yeah.
and like I said, that goes into not worrying about all the antics, right? And I think that's why we got the job done, honestly.
Yep, for sure. Well, that will do it for this episode. We are running out of time. Big game this weekend, though.
Yeah,
Friday night and hopefully Sunday. 2 games in 2 days. Let's hope that happens. But we will be back here. It's kind of been a very random off season. We've been kind of doing episodes here or there. We haven't really been sticking to a true schedule. Obviously, spring ball is off and running, and
yep.
I might do an episode maybe coming up, maybe a short episode, just kind of going over stuff I've kind of heard about. But we'll just see. I mean, it's like I said, this off season is just whenever we want to do it, well, I guess we'll do it. And I wanted to do this one because last night was a huge game. So, but yeah, that will do it for this episode. Thank you guys all for listening. Until next time, have a good rest of your week and go Hawks.